Um, how many of you know what a DD 214 is? Okay. If you come to see me, or you pass this book to somebody and they need to come see me, I've got plenty of these if you need some, and if you're not a veteran, pass it on to somebody. You've got to have a DD, Department of Defense 214. My World War II veterans don't have a DD 214 because it wasn't invented yet. But you have a discharge paper, so we work from there. There's lots of things that change. Even if I tell you right now something, by the time I get to my office next week and pull all my stuff up, it may be changed. And I tell my veterans that when they come in. That's how fast it's changing. You used to have, now let me say, Sam Capps was the first one. And I didn't write these down because I knew him. Who was the I.W. Douglas? Helen Douglas's daddy was the next one. And then Walter Morse was the next one, and then me. And some people, I even had men from my church that I was a woman, and they weren't for sure I knew what I was going to do. But they've all come by and said, hey, well, after I got them their license plates for $3.75, they were happy. So there is one thing that I want to tell you, though, that we had a president that decided that there shouldn't be tombstones. So they stick their head in my door and they'll say, I didn't get, my father didn't. If you have a grave that doesn't have a military tombstone, there was a president that cut all this out. Then the next president that came in put it all back in, and there is a big group in there that did not get a tombstone. So I have the form to fill out so you can get the tombstones. That's kind of one of the problems. But now I have all the veterans. I mean, not one single veteran in here is the same. You know, and you hear, well, Joe Smo got something, something, something. Well, Joe Smo may have hit Normandy Beach, or he was at Da Nang, and there's a world of difference in him and somebody that never left Fort Polk or Fort Stewart or Fort something like that. So every single one of you are different. So don't go on somebody else. If you use the computer, go on the computer. Department of Veteran Affairs. It's got to be the biggest website on the computer. And if you don't, call me and I'll help guide you through it. Now, I did bring, there's 75 counties, but I brought one page and I wanted to show you about Columbia County. When it says it's really over 2,000 veterans, but now that's only veterans that have asked for VA. There may be some of you in here that never have asked. Well, you're not included in that total because everybody in here knows that there's more than 2,000 veterans in Columbia County. We still have several POWs alive. They just don't toot their horns and you don't know about them. We've got men, and I love when they come in, and I do have enough history background that when they start talking about the Rhine River or Da Nang or Tanzania or whichever, that my face shows, or I can ask one question that somebody actually understands and knows where they were and where they fought through or whatever. And I get to hear a lot of living history right here in Columbia County. And that's a wonderful feeling, and I enjoy it. And I think they know that they can trust me, that I think it's fantastic. Now, if you'll notice that $10 million a year comes into Columbia County through VA. This can be disability, it can be student, it breaks it down for you. It can be education, it can be home loans, it can be pensions, it can just be VA care at the hospitals. And so $10 million. Now you can compare us to the other counties. I work 16 hours a week. Some counties, they are full-time, 5 days, and they make big salaries. It depends. I am the county judge is my boss, and that's who selects. And that's where my money comes through the county, but it is paid through the federal. Up until about a year ago, all of those men I just named, we supply everything privately. I supplied my own stamps, my own computer, my own, help me, I can't remember, paper, my own ink, everything. And thank goodness for Carolyn and Margie Blair and Annette, some of them, the county does pay postage now. I was paying postage and envelopes and everything. So our county is a little behind the norm on supplying the veterans, but I'm making some leeway, and I'm glad. So, but if, $10 million is a lot of money that this county it brings in. I have something here. Oh, now I have plenty of the flags. So if you didn't get one, I've got plenty. And of course, this is put out by how to exactly do the flag. I told a little story over here. We had a meeting back in the fall, and Tommy Broom put the flag up for us in the meeting. And he knows there's all these certain things. If it's going to be in front of the podium or behind and all these things. And if you know Tommy, it was perfect. Well, the next day when we got there for the meeting, somebody had moved it, and Tommy said, "Somebody moved my flag." In other words, they hadn't read the brochure on where it exactly goes. VA is overwhelmed right now, and you can read this in the papers and everything else. My Vietnam boots on ground combat, and some of you may have seen it in the paper where I've ran several ads that if you were boots on ground, or if you were Air Force, and you can prove you were close to Saigon or somewhere, you are eligible. VA cut out because of money. And when I first went into the office, and I found out that people I graduated high school with, boots on ground, as soon as they got out of their helicopter or the airplane that brought them into their base there in Saigon, because they had been successful in life, were not eligible for any VA benefits. I came unglued. And I fought it, and I'm still upset that it's written that way. But if you know of anybody, Korea, World War II, or anybody else, that the boots on ground, and you understand what I'm saying there, tell them to come see me, and they've been denied by VA. I have found a loophole, and I did one yesterday, Wednesday morning, and and I ran my ads this summer, and I've heard between 35 and 50 combat veterans that I have got into the VA system, and I'm not proud for myself. I'm just proud that they've got some help that they were promised and that they deserve. My age is turning that 62, 63, 65, and they've had insurance all their life, and like Alcoa, and all of a sudden they didn't. Well, when the plant shut down, I see a steady stream of them coming in to see what VA can do for them, and that's great. I mean, so far I've been able to help most of them. Vietnam was a 10-year war, so those veterans are just now kind of coming, and they're beginning to see that VA can help them, so they're in the system. But Afghanistan and Iraq are just flooded because they don't ever get off. They get off the plane at whatever station they came into, and the VA is sitting there signing every one of them up. So that's why there's a backlog, and you see it on TV, and you see it, you know, on the newspaper where there is a bad backlog. But there's some things that you can do to help. Now, tax dollar puts us in your county, but there's also Veterans of Foreign War, American Legion, Vietnam veterans, there's Jewish organizations. You can go to any of those to get help, but your tax dollar pays for me, and so some people don't want to go to the VFW or the American Legion, but you can also do it by yourself. But anybody that's looked at any of these forms, they panic, and I panicked that first year too, and if my husband hadn't helped me on them, oh my goodness, you just wade through it. I tell them you cannot sit down and do it at one time. You've got to, you know, just spread it out on your dining room table. I have something, how many of you been to a funeral where they play taps? My father-in-law was buried in the Dogwood out in a country cemetery, and I had hired John Caldwell to come and play his taps. And he went over, you know, where he had echoed back. That's got to be the eeriest, calming sound there is. How many of you know where the story of taps came from? Okay, every American should know, and this was during the war between the states. And the man had two sons. One was in music school in Atlanta and got caught up for being for the South, and one was in the North. His son in the North was killed, and taps was part of a long, you know, musical thing that was paid. So when his Southern son was found dead, the man asked, couldn't they play, even though he was a Southerner, a rebel, could they please play taps? He asked permission from his superiors. The captain had asked if any group of army, a band, could play, and he was denied because he was a Southerner. They did say, out of respect for the father, that they could give him one musician, and it was the bugler. He asked the bugler to play a series of musical notes he had found on a piece of paper in the pocket of the dead youth's uniform. This wish was granted. The haunting melody, now known as taps, used at military funerals, was born. And we know it even from Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts. Day is done, dawn the sun, from the lakes, from the hills, from the sky. All is well, safely rest. God is nigh. Now, how much time? How did it?